We're recording. Hello, and welcome to... What's our podcast called?
Live and Let's Discuss.
Let's staying in. I almost said paper movies.
Good job.
Because we just recorded paper movies 2 days ago. Hopefully this turns out better than that. Which that one turned out fine, but this is something I was actually looking forward to talking about. We're talking about Thunderball.
Yes. Bond film number 4.
We'll be talking about the novel by Ian Fleming and the film. And some of the history around the film. And compare and contrast. Because this may be one of the more fascinating histories of the Bond films. This is when things start to get messy with the Bond rights.
Yep.
This is the catalyst of it. So, Thunderball, as I understand it, was originally... It wasn't a book. It was a series of ideas that Fleming had for an original Bond film that, in the late 50s, I want to say, or early 60s. It was pre-Dr. No that just didn't materialize. So he took those ideas and he put them in Thunderball. Well, he got kind of, sued over it?
Yes, exactly. Because he wrote these original scripts for Thunderball with 2 other guys. Jack Whittingham, I think was his name, and the other guy being Kevin McClory, who would haunt this series till his death.
Yeah. And I'm just going to throw this out here because this is my personal opinion, but I think a lot of Bond fans share this. That's the reason, one of the reasons that Fleming died was the stress of this whole thing with Thunderball. I think it led to his heart attack.
Yeah, that's definitely a part of it.
That and his really unhealthy lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, and to be fair, McClory and the stress was a factor in Fleming's death, probably, but a lot of the blame has to be put on Fleming himself because of his lifestyle. We are not saying McClory killed Fleming. We're saying he, contributed a bit.
McClory is a goblin, or was.
Yes.
A gigantic goblin, and eventually we'll talk about his remake of Thunderball, which is Never Say Never Again. But thankfully that will be a long time from now.
We're just going to mention that it happened in this stream.
Well, we have to because Sean Connery was in both of these.
Yes.
But Thunderball is interesting because Thunderball, both the film and the book, mark a change in the Bond stories. They get bigger from here. Of course, the novel of Thunderball is the first appearance of Spectre. It was the new villain in town. But by now in the films, we're well versed in Spectre. But
yes, and it's interesting because in the books, like you said, it's a different bad guy getting introduced. But with the movie version, it's like the big payoff, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And we were slowly building up to it, which is interesting.
It's interesting, and it works. I'm going to say it works.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Thunderball is one of those where usually I can pick which is better, the novel or the film. In Thunderball's case, I think they're equal for different reasons.
Oh.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I love Thunderball. I really do. I didn't think, because, the book was so good when I read it, and I hadn't seen Thunderball, the film, in years. I used to watch this every time it came on TV. When I was a kid, this was one of my favorites to watch. Mainly because of the scuba diving fight at the end. I thought that was awesome at the age of 10. But...
yeah. But you know what? I'm so glad you like it, because I was afraid you were going to say, oh, it's Thunderball, being negative about it, because this is a somewhat controversial film nowadays, because I know a lot of fans don't like it.
Yeah, and I can understand why. because it's a departure from the book's a departure from what the novels have gone to. That I could understand that. The film, though, Goldfinger was big. Goldfinger was a bigger film. Thunderball, of course, had twice the budget. It had a huge budget to the point where it's actually in 16:9. It's the correct aspect ratio for watching things instead of that weird one I've been complaining about for 3 episodes now.
Yeah. Oh, I have it here. The budget was $9 million.
Which is not much today. But it was a lot in the 60s.
Yes, and I should mention right now, box office, this film made $41.2 million.
It's crazy. It was Bond mania back then.
Oh yeah.
And
it's even on the tagline of the poster. Here comes the biggest Bond of all.
Yeah, and so we have multiple producers on this. Instead of just the Broccoli's. Or which Broccoli is the grandpa or dad Broccoli?
Cubby Broccoli?
Cubby Broccoli is here. And we have McQuarrie.
Yeah. They had to bring in Kevin McClory because they couldn't have made the film otherwise.
I'm sorry, no, I almost called him Ralph McQuarrie.
Ralph McQuarrie. He did the artwork for the poster, yeah.
That's some good art on that poster.
Oh yeah, it's nice.
It's very 60s.
Yeah. Oh, did you know, speaking of Kevin McClory being the producer, he also has a cameo in the film.
No, I didn't know he had a cameo.
Yeah. Very short, but yeah, he's in there.
But we need to get into what Thunderball was about.
Yeah, alright, it's simple. So, okay. Basically, the story is that 2 nuclear bombs get stolen by Spectre, this terrorist organization we know at this point in the film series. And James Bond is investigating and trying to find them. And that's pretty much it. Yeah.
It's very straightforward, but at the same time, it's very compelling. And that was something that shocked me with the film, was how compelling it is and how urgent both the book and the film have a very urgent pace. Because Bond's following a lead to Nassau, where he meets up with Felix. And they're trying to track down because Bond thinks they're in Nassau, where no one else thinks that.
In the book, we should mention, it's a little bit different in the film.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the book, I remember thinking, I'm like, what's the deal with this book? Because it starts out with M sends Bond to a health clinic.
Oh yeah, Shrublands.
He sends it to Shrublands because M went to Shrublands and feels like really good. He sends Bond, and Bond's irritated.
Yes, what Bond is thinking about M, he's like, this old man, he's gone crazy.
It's honestly, I think it's the second most irritated we've seen Bond with M. And the first being at the beginning of Dr. No, he gets his Beretta taken away.
Oh yeah.
And, is this the first appearance of Mary Goodnight?
Yeah, I think so.
Which, keep an ear out for her. She'll be recurring as Bond's secretary.
In the books.
In the books. Yeah, Bond has his own secretary in the books. We should point that out. And this is her. She's the new secretary. He had another one before this, whose name's escaping me.
I can't remember.
Yeah, because she's
Ponsombi or something.
Yeah, but she's like Mary Goodnight's the better character.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, she has a lot more to do in the next few books, specifically in Man with the Golden Gun, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
So let's talk a little bit about the difference with the mission, like when Bond, gets it.
Mm-hmm.
Or should we talk about the whole Shrublands thing?
We should talk about the Shrublands. Because it's one of my few complaints I have with the movie is it doesn't make sense why Bond's at Shrublands.
That's true. And I think the director Terence Young complained about this introduction, why Bond is there being cut, I think.
Because Bond, at the beginning of the film, is completing another mission where he assassinates someone and takes off in a jetpack, which is so wonderful.
Yes, that was a real, actually functioning jetpack, by the way.
Yes.
Which is pretty interesting to know.
I love that. There's some bad blue screen in this film, but that's not one of them.
What do you think about his fight scene with the bad guy, Jack Bouvard, in the beginning?
I thought it was fine.
Yeah?
The thing is, and you gotta take this with a grain of salt. Sean Connery could fight. He was, as I recall, a judo. He had a black belt in judo. But the problem was that they never had good fight choreographers at that time for anything more than like boxing or fencing, that sort of thing. Like in Hollywood, that wasn't the martial arts hadn't taken off yet. I mean, Bruce Lee was still, if he even was acting, was still on Green Hornet. He's the one who caused that to really take off in the whole martial arts in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes a little frustrating at times, and we talked about this before in other podcasts, because some of the moves Connery does and the way they have it choreographed and the way they speed it up some of his strikes would break his hands. That's always frustrated me with those older films, because he can fight, whereas Roger Moore can't.
Yeah.
Which eventually start working around, but that's a topic for other episodes. His fighting in this is fine for the era.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty fun seeing Bond beat up a guy dressed as a woman.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
It was pretty good. I also liked when he, put these flowers on top of him.
Yeah, this is when we really start getting the Bond one-liners.
True, yeah.
Thunderball. But yeah, and then he's at Shrublands in both of these.
Yeah. And with the film it's not exactly clear why. You can assume he got sent there.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's something, because you could also think maybe that's something he goes to just to relax.
Yeah, because he seems more like he's enjoying it more in the film than he hates it in the book. He's miserable.
Yeah.
Pretty much the entire time. And he starts to uncover, he meets this guy who's like a Tong, like this Chinese gang, or like I think they're Chinese mafia. He has ties with them, and that leads him inadvertently on the path to Spectre, and that's the basic of that. But it's different between the novels and the novel and the film.
Correct.
Because there's a whole nother character they added in the film to Thunderball.
Yeah, not just one, but we'll get to it.
Yeah. So
next up, when Bond gets his assignment, with M and everything.
Yeah.
In the book, it's pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, he goes to work, and then he just meets M, and he tells him all about this in his office, like usual. Mm-hmm. But in the film, they have this great Ken Adams set where Bond comes in, and there are a bunch of other 00 agents, which we have never seen before, something like this.
And which most of them we will never see again, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I really liked it, because it shows this is a big crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a way, like in comparison with like You Only Live Twice, where this film wants to have a big epic story and it goes like completely over the top. Thunderball does stuff like this, which does show, this is a big epic thing, but at the same time keeps it kind of grounded.
Yeah. And I love that scene because Bond's late, and M's clearly
Oh, yeah.
irritated.
Well, now that we are all here,
Yeah.
as he looks at Bond, that's pretty great.
But you see, Bond was too busy not only with the car that blew up that was chasing him, but also having sex with that nurse in the sauna.
Right.
This film has some of the goofiest places Bond's ever done it at.
Yeah. Oh, this just reminded me of that scene in Shrublands when, the bad guy, I think it's Count Lippe.
Yes, it's
when
Count
he
Lippe.
when he tries to, kill Bond in the spa in the stretching machine.
Yes.
And it just looks like Sean Connery dry humping a desk.
Yeah, but that's from the book.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know, maybe they could have made it look less silly?
I don't know if you could. Yeah, because I remember thinking that's ridiculous in the novel. Because it reminded me, there's a scene in Diamonds Are Forever, the novel, where a dude gets buried in hot mud and gets burned.
So similar to the opening in the movie Diamonds Are Forever.
I don't remember the opening of Diamonds Are Forever.
Okay,
yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I wish I hadn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we just say that Sean Connery's acting is probably the best in this one?
Yes, which I wanted to mention because I have seen some of the critics of this film say that you can already see Connery being like, yeah, whatever, I don't care anymore, which I don't agree with at all.
No, next film, yes.
Definitely next film.
No,
but in this one, this is great. This is Sean Connery at his peak as James Bond.
Oh yeah, he's in the best shape, I think, that he ever was as Bond in this. Because he had to be shirtless for, most of this film.
True. I mean, yeah, there was this scene in Dr. No where he was shirtless in the river and everything.
Yeah, but not for long, really.
Yeah,
but
this he got a chance to show it off.
Yeah, and I mean, he had to do a lot more physical stuff.
He got almost murdered by a shark on set.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to.
Oh, yeah. That scene. But, yeah. Do we want to just go scene for scene? And,
Yeah, let's do it slowly. Not that we forget anything important.
Yeah, so...
Oh, and the difference we should mention before I forget it. So Bond goes to the Bahamas,
Yes.
In the book, this is M's idea, and he's the only one who, is like, oh, there's something with the Bahamas. Bond, you should go there. And Bond thinks I don't think there's gonna be anything in the Bahamas, but whatever, I can take a vacation.
Yeah.
Whereas in the film, it's Bond being smart and thinking, okay, here's the connection with this guy I saw at Shrublands, and this is his sister in the Bahamas. Maybe there is something there.
Who in the film got his face replaced.
Yes, which is not in the book. We should mention the pilot. What's his name? His last name, at least.
I don't remember.
Petacci?
He's Italian, I know that, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, because he's Domino's brother.
Yes.
And they also have different last names in the film than in the book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, in the book, Domino's brother, this Italian man, this pilot, he's not really part of Spectre, they just paid him.
Yes.
And that's it. But in the movie, they had to change it to make it more cinematic, and so there's this whole face-off situation.
Kind of stupid, but it's in the grand scheme of things in these Bond films, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, it's plastic surgery. It's okay.
It's not a Korean man being turned into a white man.
Yeah. Or the part in the remake, Never Say Never Again, with this fake eye.
I forgot about that.
Well, you will remember when you watch it again.
In a few years.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But so when we get introduced to the pilot, we also get introduced to the femme fatale of the movie, who doesn't exist in the book.
At all.
Fiona... No, not at all. Fiona Volpe.
Yeah. I like her.
Oh yeah, I think she's good.
Yeah, she's a great addition to this story. Although I kind of like her casting better in Never Say Never Again. I think, but that is the only time I will say that in this review. Although I think she's solid in Thunderball. It's an interesting thing we haven't seen before.
Yeah, true. She is the first femme fatale in the series, right?
Yeah, she's the best done out of all of them. I'm going to say that quite a bit. There are certain things that are just done the best in Thunderball that they try to do again and again, and it doesn't work.
Yes, one point in particular I want to get to, and that has to do with Goldfinger, what we talked about last episode. Okay, but Bond is in the Bahamas, and in the book, he meets Felix Leiter, his old friend, who got called back into like service for the Americans because before Thunderball he was a private detective because he had to leave the CIA because of the shark attack.
Yes, which we'll get into in a few episodes.
But in the movie, he also meets up with Felix at some point. But before that, he already meets up with Domino and another new character, Paula.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she's in this.
And Felix in this film is played by Rick Van Nutter.
Yes.
Who looks... He's obviously like the Jack Lord replacement from Dr. No. And it's so weird. It's like if you mix Jack Lord, Felix Leiter from Dr. No, and the old fart from Goldfinger together, you get Rick Van Nutter.
And I liked it.
Yeah, he has like his haircut and the glasses, but he has like this old man gray hair.
Yeah, but
It's weird.
Unfortunately, he doesn't do a lot.
No, which is a shame. That's always the problem with Felix.
Yeah, except for in License to Kill.
That's true. I think it's probably because, but James Bond is the main character. Because the book, for a big portion of it, I would say it's almost like a buddy cop thing.
Yeah, this happens in a couple of books where Felix is heavily involved.
Yeah, and I think it's the strongest in Thunderball.
Yes.
To an extent.
Because despite Felix's handicap, he seems to be Bond's equal in many ways.
Yeah, definitely. And in this one, because in the book, like, large portion of the Bahamas part is just Bond and Felix investigating the villain of the story, Emilio Largo. And in the movie, this got replaced, we have this femme fatale to worry about. We have this Paula character who's an ally of Bond, but then something happens to her. And all this other stuff is in here to make it more interesting and something.
Yeah.
Which I think works.
Yeah, it does. I will say something they didn't change is the card game.
Oh.
The card game is the best part of this whole film. Because it feels like the book.
Definitely.
And a lot of the dialogue is taken from the novel.
Oh yeah, when Bond is like talking to Largo, like he sees his specter.
Yeah, and Bond's taunting him.
Yeah, that's a good part.
It is. It felt like Fleming's Bond. Like Bond's getting a little cocky. Sort of thing. Also, what do you think of the casting for Largo?
So the actor is Adolfo Celi, and I think he's good.
Yeah, I think
he does a great job. I think he looks good as a villain. What I find interesting, because in the book, Largo doesn't have any like disfigurements, like he just looks like a cool Italian dude.
Mm-hmm.
And Fleming says like, oh, back in the days, someone like Largo would have been a pirate on sea. And so the movie just gave Adolfo Celi an eye patch.
Yeah.
Which I found really funny. But yeah, he's good. He's good. What I find a little bit annoying is how they dubbed him over.
Yeah, once again, dubbing.
Yeah, because this is something different. Because in like From Russia with Love, we have an Italian actress playing a Russian character, and you made the argument like, yeah, she has to do a Russian accent. Maybe she couldn't do it, and so this was the easiest solution. In this film, they hire an Italian actor who has an Italian accent to play an Italian character, but because of his Italian accent being too thick apparently, they get another Italian guy to dub him over after the fact.
Yeah, this still happens in Hollywood from time to time. Do you ever see the Neil Blomkamp film Chappie?
I think so.
In Chappie, there's a character who has too thick of a South African accent, so they put subtitles on him. But it's not thick enough to warrant that. It's just some people just can't understand it. Also, I hope you can't hear that, but my neighbor upstairs has decided to dribble his basketball at 9 o'clock at night because he is a giant man-child.
Cool.
He's probably drunk. It's Saturday. He's drunk every night, but they're particularly bad on Saturdays. I know that's off topic, but
some drunk basketball.
Yeah. Well, we have a basketball court right next to our building. So, yeah, he's getting overzealous upstairs. Anyway, hopefully that didn't filter in, but I'm keeping that in.
Yeah. Back to the movie.
Yes.
So, the bad guy. Like I said, I like him. What do you think exactly about him?
I like him more in the book. I think he gets overshadowed a little bit in the film. He's still great, but like there's so many more characters, and he's having to share the screen with this femme fatale.
True. And it's funny that you mention it, because I think, I would agree he's somewhat overshadowed, despite giving a good performance, I think.
Oh, yeah.
In the book, it's almost worse, because we get the introduction to Blofeld.
Yes, that's true.
And in the book, that's like 30 pages of like Blofeld's entire life story, and it's awesome. And you think, I want to read more about this awesome guy, and then they introduce Largo in the book. And it's like, yeah, okay. I guess he's the villain now.
Yeah.
Slightly less interesting.
That's a little wonky, but it still works for me.
Which is also something I really love here. Speaking, this again, set design. The Spectre headquarter, where he goes to, the meeting room. That is such an awesome scene.
Yes.
And it brings back the actor from Russia with Love to do Blofeld.
I know that they didn't. He's so good.
Yeah.
He's so good as Blofeld. If only for You Only Live Twice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for You Only Live Twice, they brought in Lobot.
We'll get to that next month.
Yeah. Oh, no. You Only Live Twice. I was thinking For Your Eyes Only. They brought Donald Pleasance in You Only Live Twice.
Yeah.
It's early for me. I'm confused. Sorry.
It's late for me.
Dear listeners.
It's not that late.
But yeah, and this is again with Largo. I like when Blofeld kills one of his men, and Largo is just sitting there and looking like bored. Like this is something usually he doesn't care about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think that's a good scene.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I like Largo. But you know who steals the show, in my opinion?
Who?
Domino.
Definitely.
Oh my god.
I would say, I think I can say it right now, what I said before with the Goldfinger thing. Domino is like what they wanted to do with Goldfinger. It's like, making women more stronger and independent. Mm-hmm. It failed in Goldfinger. We talked about it because there was like no chemistry or anything between Pussy Galore and Bond.
Mm-hmm.
In this one with Domino, this works.
Can I tell you something here?
Yeah.
Domino is my absolute favorite Bond girl.
Of all the films?
Of all the films.
Damn.
Yeah, like, I like that she holds her own with Bond at times. She's tough, but at the same time vulnerable. She's just complex. And she's like, yeah, I'm Largo's mistress. Like,
oh, yeah.
Which, especially for the book, that's so controversial.
Mm.
Like, that's, like, it's just, like, that's how I did this for me. And I loved her in the book, and I loved her in the film. She has her own little character arc.
Oh, yeah, which is very nice.
She's believable, unlike, I mean, the one that always comes to mind is Denise Richards as Christmas Jones in The World's Not Enough. You can't tell me that Denise Richards is a nuclear physicist when she can't pronounce half of the jargon she's supposed to be spouting.
She's a nuclear physicist, yeah.
Yeah. She comes from the
Christmas
George
only
W.
comes once a year. Yeah, that's the kind of... Especially because they are always pushing for, like, strong women in these Bond films, and then, Denise Richards. Yeah.
Oh, well, half of them. Yeah. Well, I mean, the Moore era is notorious for just dumb women characters. We'll get to that later. I always say this, we'll get to that. But even, like, the 90s ones, how many of them would hold their own with Bond? The Bond girl in Tomorrow Never Dies.
Waylon, yeah.
Yeah. Jinx, kind of.
Yeah, I guess so, but she has other problems as a character.
Yeah. The Craig ones, none of them.
Yeah.
None of them at all. Well, I mean, Skyfall barely has a Bond girl.
True.
So, we'll get to that. Because I have some opinions on that. But,
what I really liked with Domino in the film? Mm-hmm. They changed her first meeting with Bond. Because in the book, Bond is basically waiting for her, searching for her. And he just meets her in, like, a shop. And buys her some cigarettes.
I have to make a comment. It's Fleming being very Fleming. He says that she drives like a man. And that made me laugh out loud. And I'm like, that is the most Ian Fleming thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
He had such a low opinion on it's funny because, like, Domino's a great character and he wrote that character. But he had such a low opinion of women at times.
Yeah, I mean...
Especially the driving.
That's still a joke, but yeah.
Yeah. But
yeah, it was a pretty funny line.
It is.
If he intended it or not, it's pretty good.
It did make me cackle a little bit, and I'm like, oh. And on Goodreads, a bunch of people are like, this is the most misogynist book I've ever read. Because they do that every time. Do you ever go on Goodreads, Noah?
Not really.
Okay. If you do, and you look at the American reviews, guarantee every 1-star review, they either say that these books are misogynistic or racist. Except for The Spy Who Loved Me. Those are all accurate claims. But, yeah, no, it's just like, drives like a man. And she's driving an adorable little sports car that I, for the life of me, cannot remember what it's called. But it's a cute little thing. They don't make them anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, so this was a good scene in the book, I would say. But in the movie, I think it's even better.
Yes.
Because they first meet underwater.
Yes. Driving home the theme of this film, which is a lot of scuba diving.
Oh yeah, a lot of it. They really want to get their money's worth from filming underwater.
Yeah. This may be the best looking...
This is one of the big complaints against the film by some, but I'm like, this was filmed, like this is a 1965 film, and they had to film this stuff underwater.
And they
absolutely should show it.
They actually filmed it underwater, which in future Bond films is not always the case.
Yeah. Yes. But really, I'm fine with it, with much of this film being like underwater and slow, apparently.
Yeah, well, I mean, have you ever tried to fight someone underwater?
No.
That's hard. I got in a brawl at a public pool once and we weren't completely submerged. It's just like it's hard to do. Like, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I will say though that this film did do something wrong. Like that, this caused a bad precedent, which is a lot of people that get into like free diving and they go for diving knives think that a diving knife is a fighting knife. It is not. A diving knife is meant if you get hung up on something, you can cut your way out of it. You're not going to fight a shark with a diving knife. I mean, you can try. Most diving knives don't have most diving knives have blunted tips, like they're squared off. So yeah, the Bond films, specifically Thunderball, have ruined diving knives to purpose.
Okay, so speaking of Domino, quick before we move on. In the movie, her name is Domino Derval, but in the book, it's Domino Vitali.
Yes.
Which is, I think she says it's like a fake name because her birth name is like, I think it's Petacci. I'm not sure what it was in the book.
And she like hates it or something like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Can we talk about the scuba diving sex?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Since it pertains to Domino. Okay.
Which is near the end, yeah.
It's near the end. So there's a scene in the book, and it's a very emotional scene where Bond knows he has to break her heart and tell her about her brother. And he's not looking forward to it, and he like feels remorse. And this is something I love about Fleming's Bond, is he has these moments where he feels remorse for like what he has to do, or he feels bad for killing people, or like that sort of thing, which doesn't always come off in the film. But they have sex in like a changing room.
Yes.
In the film, he has sex with Domino underwater.
Yes.
That is all I can think of is that is the worst bladder infection a woman could have, of getting that much salt water pushed up in you. You'd have to go to the frickin' hospital.
I mean, I would say it's a better scene than the one in Never Say Never Again on the boat, but we will get to that one.
Oh!
You don't remember which one?
No, I don't. I remember the pool scene at the end with Mr. Bean.
Oh, well, then you have something to look forward to, because speaking of like awkward, strange sex scenes.
Oh, yeah, with the femme fatale. Yeah, I remember.
Okay.
Well, every scene with Sean Connery that was like that was awkward because he was like their grandfather. It's the same thing with Roger Moore in his last couple films. It's gross.
Yeah.
Grandpa, yeah, they're banging women that were born when they They qualify for Social Security. It's just nasty.
A View to a Kill?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, that's even worse because Roger Moore had that awful facelift.
But going back to Thunderball, that's not the case here. Connery looking good, acting good.
Oh, yeah, acting great. Looking great. There's some things I wanted to talk about because, they want to get their money's worth of the underwater.
Yes.
So they added additional underwater scenes to the film. One that comes to mind is, of course, the shark pool.
Yep. Which almost killed Sean Connery.
It literally... Well, I think someone lost a leg making Thunderball 2.
Really?
Or that could have been You Only Live Twice. That they got, lost a leg filming. And it actually ended up, because they had a false leg, they fell to their deaths in a future film. It was like a cinematographer. Or something. Yeah, it was just, yeah. But, so, there's the scene. We're going to just jump around here quite a bit. I don't think we need to go...
Because that's the thing with our podcast. We expect you to have already seen the film and know the film.
Yeah. Not necessarily read the book, although you should.
Yeah. But, I think we explain enough with the book and the differences.
Yeah, but, so, in the book, Bond portrays himself, he goes under the disguise as a millionaire who wants to buy the house that Largo uses as a vacation house with Domino.
Palmyra, it's called, I think?
Yes, and he ends up I wouldn't say befriending, but they're on friendlier terms in the book than they are in the film.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And so much so that Largo takes Bond and Felix onto the Disco Volante, which is his yacht. Which does not happen in the film. In the film, he invites Bond to his house, and Bond, ends up sneaking in there later, and it ends up that he gets in a fight. Well, he's trying to save his, female partner or whatever.
Paula, right.
Paula, who, spoilers, dies.
Ooh.
And
she takes a cyanide pill.
She takes a cyanide pill. She was not very helpful in the film as a whole. Neither of those people are very helpful. They don't really do anything except for stand around or sit around. But,
yeah.
So he sneaks.
You know what I want to mention before you move on to the shark scene?
What?
Yeah, so he has, you said with the great one-liners, he has one of the best when he first meets Largo in his house, Palmyra. When he's like, you know a lot about guns, Mr. Bond? And he's like, no, but I know a lot about women.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good line. Because he's like, oh, this looks more like a gun for a woman.
Yeah, and they also go skeet shooting. Bond's like, oh, I guess it is easy. Giving him shit.
I love Largo's reaction. He's like, yeah. His face in that moment. Pretty great.
But Bond, so I gotta get to the so there's two swimming pools.
Okay.
There's the swimming pool that Domino swims in, and then there's a swimming pool full of sharks. Which I have a theory that both swimming pools are full of salt water. The sharks would die in chlorinated water. They would literally burn up. Their lungs would burn up. Their gills would just burn up, breathing in chemicals like that, and they die a very painful death.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Bond... go on.
Yeah, continue, because I have here some quotes about the shark scene.
So Bond, he gets caught, and he ends up losing his gun. He loses his Walther, He ends up in a fist fight with the dude, and they fall into the Domino's pool that we see Domino swimming in the previous scene. So Largo has the not only has the pool cover go over it, so they can't get out, they can't surface, but also there's a tunnel from the shark pool into the other pool, and he opens it so the sharks will eat them. And literally, Sean Connery is swimming with sharks.
Yep.
That is absolute insanity. You can literally see the fear in Sean Connery's eyes swimming that close, especially because they're like, he's like in a tunnel with one. Should
I read this little quote?
Yes.
Okay, this is by Ken Adam, the set designer. I had rented a villa in the Bahamas with a saltwater pool, which we filled with sharks and used for underwater filming. The smell was horrendous. This was where Sean Connery came close to being bitten. We had plexiglass corridor to protect him, but I didn't have quite enough plexiglass and one of the sharks got through. He never got out of a pool faster in his life. He was walking on water.
Yeah. That's terrifying. That's so bad. How did they not have enough plexiglass?
Wait till we get to the end fight with the Disco Volante. There's something even worse that happened.
Yeah, okay. So, we haven't talked about the femme fatale that much. She has this goal of, like, she's gonna kill Bond for Largo.
Yes, exactly.
And she nearly kills him by driving like a goblin.
Like a man?
Like a madman, maybe.
Yeah.
Going
100. Such a great scene.
120 in a Mustang. Insanity. I've driven fast, but I've never driven that fast before.
Mm. And I like the nice little bait and switch, because during that drive, Bond sees like her little Spectre insignia ring.
Yes.
And he's like, oh no. And then she starts going faster and faster. Mm-hmm. And Bond seems to think, okay, now something is going to happen. And then she just stops, like normal at his hotel. Nice little bait and switch.
Yeah. He also finds her in the bath. And it leads to probably my favorite Sean Connery like sort of gesture ever in any of these films, where she's like, "Can you hand me something?"
Yes, and he put on the shoes.
That kills me. That makes me literally laugh out loud every time I see it.
Yeah, just too many great scenes in this.
Her death, though, is also funny.
Oh yeah, I remember. Oh, when Bond goes to the Kiss Kiss Club, as it's called.
Yes.
Because he's trying to escape her and Largo's man. Which, we should mention, this has to do with the soundtrack. They play the original, like, theme for this movie, which is Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Yes, and I love it.
Yeah. It's very good. They didn't use it. They used the Tom Jones version, which is awesome.
Awesome.
It's a great song. It's, instead of like with Goldfinger, we have a song about the villain, and the Tom Jones Thunderball is all about Bond and how awesome he is.
Yeah.
And it's like the same with Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, where it's like this guy, James Bond, he's so awesome. And like the only song that has like actually has anything to do with the story is like the Johnny Cash version.
Kind of, yeah. Which sounds like it's from some sort of Western.
Yes, we should. Okay, everybody listening to this, listen to Johnny Cash's Thunderball. It's awesome. And I kind of wish they used it, because it's so strange. Like, if they had used this instead of like Tom Jones version,
mm-hmm.
we would have very different soundtracks in future Bond films.
Yeah. Yeah, Tom Jones's song kind of established a norm.
Oh, yeah.
Also, we didn't talk about the opening credits. Not only do we have the first gun barrel to actually have Sean Connery in it, we have the first of women swimming. And women swimming is a thing it's still kind of a thing. Some of the time. I would say about a third of the time in the Bond opening credits.
Yes,
you
because
have silhouetted naked women swimming.
Yeah, because they changed like the guy who did the credits sequence was the same guy who did the one for Dr. No, but for From Russia with Love and Goldfinger they got someone else.
Mm-hmm.
I think for From Russia with Love and Goldfinger the guy who did it was called like Brown John or something. I don't remember what this guy was called who did Dr. No, Thunderball, and then pretty much everything after that.
Until we got to GoldenEye.
Yes.
Because GoldenEye is when they started being like kind of CG-ish. Then Tomorrow Never Dies, it's like almost all CG.
Yeah.
And then you get to Spectre and its big octopus arms.
Yeah.
And Daniel Craig's head on a 20-year-old's body.
Yeah, I have some jokes already for Spectre when we get to it.
In 2 years.
Yeah.
Maybe
but
3
yeah,
years.
this opening sequence is pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty damn good, I would say.
This film is pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thunderball's wonderful.
We should get into the end, probably.
Yes.
I mean, is there anything else in the middle portion that we should mention in terms of like great scenes?
I want to talk about something that I was shocked. I didn't remember it, first of all, in the movie. They kind of bring up Domino being tortured, which is a big thing in the book.
Yes.
Largo tortures her, and I always say it's pretty heinous. It's less heinous than a lot of them are. It's disturbing because this is the first time a Bond girl's been tortured.
Yeah.
And either that we know of for sure. I mean, there's Goldfinger, there's hints of it with the painting. But like this, he's like burning her with a cigar and then putting ice on it.
Yes.
That's what a weird way of torture. So we get to our climax, which is Bond. In the book, it's Bond and Felix and a bunch of
in a military submarine.
Yeah, go and have a scuba dive fight with Largo and his men.
Which, can I just say, like, in the book, that's such a funny image. Like, Felix Leiter with, like, his hook hand.
And his peg leg.
Yeah.
Swimming. That was... I was like, why? What? I mean, and he has issues. He has issues swimming with his hook hand. In fact, he ends up getting injured.
Yeah, and Bond has to, like, take him to safety.
Yes. But in this, I want to point... So, the film... It's like 12 on 12, I think, in the book.
Yeah.
And then in the film, it's like 100 on 100. Well, it's not 100. It's like 30 on 30.
Yeah, a little bit bigger.
And it is a free-for-all of harpoons and punching. It is wonderful.
Yep.
It's one of my favorite big climaxes to a Bond film, where you have Bond and a bunch of other dudes like fighting.
Oh, isn't like the end fight in Moonraker your favorite then?
No.
Where it's basically the same battle, but instead of underwater, it's in space.
But it's
and
stupid.
Instead of harpoons, it's laser guns.
It's stupid. It's absolutely stupid.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. This end fight is pretty great. We should mention, I just remembered it, Desmond Llewellyn returns again as Q.
Yes, it's the first time Q's in the field.
Yeah, which is pretty nice. And Bond is acting like a dick.
And it's wonderful.
Yep.
And this is the first time he's really full on doing what becomes standard with Bond and Q.
Yep.
That would even stay till the Brosnan films.
Oh, yeah.
I will say Brosnan, he really could do that. He did the Q tormenting well.
Yeah, and Q already got some funny lines in this one.
Yeah.
Which in Goldfinger, it was mostly like... It wasn't bad, but it wasn't like quippy dialogue.
I never joke about my work, 007.
Yeah, that's a great line, I mean.
It is, but it's not that funny.
It's like, from Russia with Love, there was already one. When he shows Bond like this attaché case. And he's like, if you open it this way, this will explode. In your face. It's little moments, that's what I like.
Yeah. But,
This one in Thunderball is also pretty good. He has something about this pill that Bond has to take, and Bond is like, what do I have to do with this thing? And Q's like, swallow it. Bond's like, no. I like it. I like their interactions in here.
It's not my favorite Q. We'll get to that eventually. My favorite Q thing ever, which makes me cackle. But I enjoy it. Although we need to talk about Bond's little breathing apparatus that's supposed to only be for like 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, the one that George Lucas used in The Phantom Menace.
Yes, and the fact that he's using it for 20.
Yeah.
He's going around punching people and cutting people's scuba tanks and stuff, and throwing grenades into wrecked ships. And he's just using these 5-minute thing. Did he do all that? He messes with 12 different people. He would have drowned. But we need to get to...
Oh, and with these little breathing thing, there's also a fun fact. So apparently the Royal Corps of Engineers, they asked like the designer of that thing, Peter Lamont, how did you make this underwater breather thing? Gosh, this is amazing. And he was like, this is a film, this is a special effect, this doesn't work.
It's true.
Which, I mean, to be fair, the jetpack was real, so maybe they were thinking like, oh, if this is real, everything in this must be real.
Yeah.
But that's just a pretty funny thing.
It makes sense. It was the 60s.
Yeah.
It's before laser beams coming out of watches was the thing in Bond. Or magnet watches. The watch in this is just a Geiger counter.
Oh yeah, which they confuse because they also say like the camera is the Geiger counter.
Yeah, that's more closer to the book, so they could give it to
Domino.
Yeah.
Okay, but so going into the end fight. First off, the whole thing with Domino being tortured and everything. In the book, it's when she returns and joins the battle. It's like very like last minute thing. Like,
yes.
She shows up just in time to save Bond, which is cool because she kills Largo underwater.
Yes.
Which is awesome, and it's similar here in the film, but in the book, we only hear later by Felix that like, oh yeah, she must have escaped the room and then jumped into action. Which isn't much, like they don't really tell us how did she escape, but in the film they actually show it, which leads to, this other character, which we should talk about.
Oh yeah, the German scientist.
I don't think he's German in the movie because they changed his name and I know why.
All right.
Okay, the German scientist. In the book, he's German. I think he was like a Nazi,
Yes,
right?
because Spectre, this is something we need to point out for the book readers, or people who are like, when we explain this, Spectre, Blofeld's thing is he works in groups of 3. So they have 3 people from Smersh in the book, which we didn't talk about, where Largo murders one of them because they're going to mutiny. And he makes
because that's always what the Russians do.
And so he shoots one like in the face. There's like 3 former Nazis. They're like from various gangs and terrorist organizations.
Right.
So yeah, what is the scientist's name in the book?
Okay, and I think that's the reason they changed it. The scientist in the book, he's named Kotze, which is the German word for vomit. And I'm pretty sure, I'm 100% sure Fleming knew this.
Oh, he probably did.
That was intentional. I'm pretty sure Fleming knew enough about German as a language and everything.
Yeah.
But and they changed his name to Ladislav Kutze. Mm-hmm. And I think he has another nationality. I don't know exactly what it is. But yeah, for obvious reasons.
Something I want to point out is that Bond throws him overboard and gives him a life preserver, and we never see him again.
Yes, he even says, I can't swim, I don't know how, and then Bond just pushes him off the boat.
He's like, you'll learn.
Yeah, but we need this happy end with Bond and Domino. And this guy, yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
Maybe he survived.
But the fight on the Disco Volante that splits in half becomes a faster ship.
Which is awesome.
Which is awesome. But Bond gets on and he just punches everyone in the face. And it's wonderful. It's just this brawl between him and 4 other dudes.
Yes. I think it's in the fight with Largo. There is like this one like jacked guy coming up from like underneath the ship, and he's just holding like a champagne bottle in his hand.
And Bond kicks him in the face.
Yeah. That was so random, but it's so awesome.
And then he hits him with the door. That's the one he hits the door repeatedly and then throws into the ocean. and then Largo gets shot in the back with a harpoon gun.
By Domino.
Domino.
So this is the Bond girl killing the bad guy.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, and it works great for her little character arc and everything.
Because at both times, Bond's like, it's a no-win situation for him. In the book, he's basically been herded into this like little area where he can't escape, and Largo's just going to stab him to death.
Yep.
And in the film, Largo's got him at gunpoint.
Mm-hmm.
I dig it. Also, Domino gets her revenge for Largo killing her brother.
Yeah, it's pretty damn good.
So,
and then, I mean, what you could criticize is the speed up footage.
Oh yeah, the speed up and the blue screen is bad.
Yeah, it doesn't take away too much from the scene because I think this is a pretty good end fight, but yeah, I mean, it's a little bit wonky.
It's dated, is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and there is, so the Disco Volante crashes and explodes.
Yes.
And there's a great little behind-the-scenes thing. Do you know about it?
No.
Let me just read this. Okay. While in Nassau, during the final shooting days, special effects supervisor John Steers was supplied experimental rocket fuel to use in exploding Largo's yacht. Ignoring the true power of the volatile liquid, Steers doused the entire yacht with it, took cover, and then detonated the boat. The resultant massive explosion shattered windows along Bay Street in Nassau, roughly 30 miles away.
Oh my god.
That is amazing.
that sums up this film. This film is awesome. This book is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, they gave him experimental rocket fuel just so they can blow up the yard. This should tell you something. That's the kind of special effects we expect and want in a James Bond film.
Yes, instead of terrible CGI.
Yeah, cut to Pierce Brosnan getting electrocuted by a guy in a RoboCop costume.
I thought you were going to say cartoon Halle Berry jumping into the ocean.
Yeah, cut to Pierce Brosnan surfing the big wave.
The greatest scene of all cinema.
Yeah.
It's up there with the barrel riding scene in Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug.
But yeah, pretty good, pretty awesome explosion. Pretty shitty for the people in Nassau, apparently.
Yeah.
Shattering their windows. Oh, God.
So, let me ask you this. Would you recommend this film?
Of course. I think this is an absolutely great James Bond movie. This is, when you think James Bond, this is basically the movie that comes to mind for everyone. Because this has everything. This has the charming, great Sean Connery. This has, like, the big evil organization stealing weapons, wanting, holding the world hostage.
Mm-hmm.
It has an awesome Bond girl. One of the absolute best, if not the best, for you the best. I would say one of the best, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
No question. Some of the best action. I like it. I don't mind the underwater scenes at all.
Me neither.
I think it's quite impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just in general, this is a very solid film, and I can understand why it made so much money. And it is the last, not the very last film, but for now, it was the last grounded James Bond film that still felt like big and epic. And then they, they made You Only Live Twice, which...
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll get to next month.
But overall, Thunderball, absolutely A+. I would even, this might be controversial, I would put this over Goldfinger. Because this is something we didn't mention. I think Terrence Young, who also directed the first two films, I simply think he's a better director. And he makes the film look better. Like, something we didn't mention, the Bahamas as a location is great. It looks great. And that's something that I missed in Goldfinger, because Goldfinger really fails in terms of like great locations and making it look good. Mm-hmm. This film succeeds in that regard.
Yeah. Of course, I love this film. This is one of my favorites ever for Bond. I think this is one of the quintessential Bond films ever. The book is my favorite of the Blofeld trilogy, as well as one of my favorite Bond books as a whole. It just felt fresh, and it felt like the right take for the novels. But let's segue into Bond stuff we've been reading, because we need to talk about how I finished the Fleming books.
All right. Go ahead.
I laughed at 007 in New York, the last short story.
Yeah, I got your message about it. It was great.
The spoilers, the end of the last book, Octopussy and the Living Daylights, ends with a short story that wasn't even published for Octopussy and the Living Daylights. The new versions it is. It's called 007 in New York. It was an apology for Ian Fleming saying that New York's a terrible place. Spoilers, it is. And it's about Bond reminiscing about the good old days in New York. At some point, I don't know when he does this, and then it ends with a recipe for scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
It is a nothing story.
Yes, but at least you get a James Bond recipe for scrambled eggs.
I need to try it, but I don't like champagne.
But yeah, what a way to go out.
That's the last Fleming story.
Yeah, not chronologically, which is the only good thing.
Yeah, the last story would be the Living Daylights, technically.
Written, I guess, but I was thinking like in reading order that would be Man with the Golden Gun, actually.
Oh yeah, it would. Yeah.
Yeah, because the short stories in Octopussy and Living Daylights take place before the events there.
They take place before Thunderball.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, they don't have anything to do with Spectre.
Yeah.
But they take place after For Your Eyes Only. I think. Or they're interchangeable. It's that era where he's not fighting Shmersh, but he hasn't met Spectre yet.
Yeah, they could basically take place at any point in time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, but you finished the Fleming novels, which is good.
Yes.
It was worth it overall, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. I'm taking a break. Well, I'm reading Goldeneye right now because that's Paper Movies coming up.
Yep. I finished it, by the way.
I know you have, and Adam's finished it too. I am on chapter 2, and Matthew hasn't started it yet.
He needs to hurry up.
He does, but it's Matthew. It took him a year to read The Approaching Storm, which I don't think he ever finished, and he just lied about it.
Same with Rogue Planet.
Same with Rogue Planet. Same with everything, let's be real. He only reads the new canon.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I was thinking reading The Life of Ian Fleming, which is an autobiography by John Pearson, who also wrote a James Bond novel, the authorized James Bond biography.
Yeah, I was going to skip that.
Oh yeah, you should. You should. That's a weird one because it started as like a parody book that he then somehow turned into a real book, and it recounts, like it pretends James Bond was a real person.
Yeah.
And Fleming got the inspiration, and this guy did experience some of the Fleming book adventures, but not exactly the way they happened, and it's just kind of weird.
Yeah, because doesn't he marry Honey Child Writer?
Yeah, he did. It's weird. It's a weird one.
Yeah, no thank you. We already had weirdness like that in You Only Live Twice.
A little bit. Oh, come on. I mean, I liked it.
I didn't.
No.
I thought we'll get to that next month.
Yeah.
Where we get the full rant.
Oh, that's going to be interesting because You Only Live Twice is one of my favorites books. Yeah, so.
I know it is, and I feel bad, but it's not one of mine.
Well, maybe we can agree on some points.
Oh yeah, there are some good things in there. I will say that.
All right.
Mainly, it got me to read Bonto's haiku. That's the big takeaway. Yeah, I just bought a ton of his work. I've been reading that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I might get one tattooed on me.
Yeah, but that's going to be the next episode, which is going to be interesting because Thunderball, book 1 of the Blofeld trilogy, and then there was supposed to be On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And then You Only Live Twice would be the revenge story and the final. But not for the films.
No, and it doesn't make sense.
No, because apparently the only reason they couldn't make Majesties as the next film after Thunderball is because, like, there wasn't enough snow when they were going to film, so they had to wait.
That's stupid.
Yeah, I know. Well,
literally just fake snow.
Or maybe if you have to make another movie in between, take a standalone book instead of the third book of the trilogy.
Yeah, you could.
Like,
can you
why
imagine?
don't you make another Goldfinger? Like, make Diamonds Are Forever. That is a standalone. Make that one after Thunderball and then continue with.
Or Live and Let Die.
Yeah.
That would have been interesting with Sean Connery.
Oh, yeah.
They would have been darker. I can tell you that.
Definitely.
That's...
No pun intended.
It
would have been darker.
Yeah. That's fucked. Here we go again. Anyway, yeah, no, but is Live and Let Die the most unpleasant of all?
You mean film or book? Or
The book. Is it the darkest?
you mean like just in terms of like the tone?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's tough.
I remember it being disturbing and how violent it was. Well, Casino Royale's pretty brutal at times, but Live and Let Die is just... I remember it being very violent. And
yeah, I mean that's where Felix gets almost killed by a shark.
But Bond gets his...
the torture scene, Bond and Solitaire, the Bond girl getting tortured by Mr. Big. Yeah, that's... Yeah, I would say it is probably the most brutal.
And it's the second book. Because I remember when we got to Moonraker and being like, oh, that wasn't nearly as violent as Live and Let... I mean, it's still... Those early Bond books were super... Bond got messed up.
Yep.
Regularly. I mean, he gets messed up pretty bad in all of them, except for Man with the Golden Gun. He doesn't really. He does a
Spy Who Loved Me, maybe.
Spy Who Loved Me. Yeah, he gets a little injured, but not a whole lot. He gets cut, but that's about it. But he's barely in Spy Who Loved Me. He wasn't in there long enough to get injured.
Yeah.
He doesn't really get injured in the short stories.
True.
Yeah. Which I can't wait till when we talk about those in detail.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's going to be interesting, because we would have to do... what's the first one? I guess For Your Eyes Only?
Which is a couple of them.
Yeah. I think the biggest portion of the story in For Your Eyes Only, the film, is from the short story Risiko.
But the For Your Eyes Only short stories in there too.
Yeah, that's true. And there is a little bit of Live and Let Die.
Oh, yes.
So that's an interesting one.
It is. It's my favorite. I think it's my favorite Moore film.
Oh.
One of them. That's hard to say.
Definitely.
There's another runner-up that's arguably equal to that.
Ah, yes. Moonraker.
Oh, obviously. Actually, it's A View to a Kill.
Ooh.
I hate A View to a Kill. Except for the Duran Duran song in the opening.
Mm-hmm.
It's just... Yeah. Like I said, these guys playing Bond, like they're it's like Charles Bronson in the later Death Wish movies, where he's literally dating women that were born when he qualified for Social Security. Like, it's so nasty. But I guess he's got to have other families to get horribly murdered so he can go Death Wish the bad guys.
Yeah, so...
What have you been reading, aside from GoldenEye, Bond-wise?
Bond-wise, like I said, I was thinking about the Fleming autobiography. I definitely need to read his last couple of non-Bond books that he did, which would be Chitty Chitty Bang Bang,
yes,
The Diamond Smugglers, and Thrilling Cities. I
noticed that you're avoiding John Gardner books.
A little bit. I mean, the last one I read, I didn't hate. I think it was No Deals, Mr. Bond, which was extremely brutal. Did I tell you about it?
No.
The story, in short, it's like a bunch of women who get like... They are targets for like the Russians or some evil organization here. And they get like brutally murdered because they were witnesses to something. They get like their heads smashed with a hammer and their tongues getting cut out.
Ew.
Yes, and I was like, wow, okay, this is like psycho thriller, serial killer stuff in a James Bond novel.
So this is coming from the same author who Spectre had, what was it, mind-controlling ice cream?
Yes, that's from the same author. That's. I mean, with Fleming, it was a little bit. He started very serious, and then you could feel, in his later books, he got kind of like more fun. But this is like extreme.
I think the further away he got from World War II, the more he, like, loosened up.
Yeah.
Because wasn't he in World War II?
Oh, yeah, he was.
Yeah, because that's where the whole Bond thing comes from.
Yeah, that's also why he named his house in Jamaica Goldeneye.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm going to continue John Gardner. You know what?
Mm-hmm.
Up Monday, I'm going to start Scorpius, which is another book of his.
Yes. Yeah.
And then we will see what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, I did read GoldenEye, which he wrote, and it was... I mean, we are going to talk about it in the Paper Movies podcast, but it was fine. It was okay. I enjoyed it.
That's what I've gotten so far. It feels pretty straightforward, a movie novelization. Which is fine. That's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty short.
Yes, that's another thing I'm pretty happy about. It's not as short as these Christopher Wood Bond novelizations, though.
Oh yeah, from what I have heard, they are pretty interesting, though.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to reading those. I know you don't have one of them.
Yeah, I think Moonraker is the one I could potentially get.
I have 2 of them, if you want to pay shipping.
Well, maybe. Yeah, but I have heard the Christopher Wood novelizations are closer to Ian Fleming, actually. Which is interesting for The Spy Who Loved Me, because that's like as far away from Fleming as you can get. But it still works on its own.
Yeah. Huh. I can't wait to talk about that with you.
Yep. All right, but I guess to finish this off, Thunderball, awesome film, awesome book.
Would recommend.
And next time, it's time for You Only Live Twice and Sean Connery turning into Mr. Spock.
Ugh.
We are going to talk about that one for like 30 minutes, I'm sure. About that scene alone.
Oh, yeah. That's gonna be a drawn-out one. Spoilers, that was the first Bond film I ever saw.
Oh.
And I was probably like 6.
Did you like it?
Yeah, because I was into ninjas.
Oh, that's cool.
That's why my dad found it on TV and put it on. He's like, yeah, you might like this, is into ninjas. And then they're based in a volcano, and I was like, oh my god, people live in volcanoes?
Yes, this is the most epic film ever.
Yeah. Alright, guys. Have a good night.
See you next time.
Yeah.